our lecture today is the SGI concept of actual proof is a spoof. Again, the SGI Buddhist concept of actual proof is a spoof. Imagine talking to the late, great comedian Robin Williams, who obviously had mental problems of being depressed. Imagine telling him you're going to get some actual proof. Actual proof could be peace of mind or the good fortune in the joy in life. This actual proof concept of SGI teaches chief ones, profound teachings of Buddhism. Let's take you to more detail and explain how profound Buddhism, because Buddhism teaches you about good fortune, not actual proof. Let's check it out. We're going to continue to educate some of the members in the SGI Buddhist Association. Not only are we going to educate the SGI Buddhists, we're going to educate some of the Nichiren Buddhists and Nichiren Shu Buddhists, because one of the things, ladies and gentlemen, that we offer something that's very unique and special in Buddhism that you don't see. We offer an African American perspective. These are the things that you do not see in the Buddhist teachings. Let's get right into it. You notice here, this is our prayer book and of the Proud Black Buddhist World Association. That's our prayer book. Now, in our prayer book on page 8, you're going to see a picture of James Brown. And it says, quote, "In the Gosho it is written, they relate to secular matters in terms of Buddhism. Whereas the Lotus Sutra explains that in the end, secular matters are the entirety of Buddhism." Ladies and gentlemen, I think we need to read this again. It says, they relate to secular matters. Mm-hmm. Now, that's Nichiren Shu, and the SGI. Mm-hmm. They relate to secular matters in terms of Buddhism. But it's only the Lotus Sutra that explains, in the end, secular matters are the entirety of Buddhism. Now, what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that our everyday life, that is the entirety of Buddhism. If you have a Buddhism, and you're African American, and you live in America, and you have a religion that does not relate to you, or where you are not inclusive, then that is not the teachings of the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra is inclusive of secular matters. For many of you out there, you might have heard me mention the name Bobby Hudson. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not just Bobby Hudson, but Bobby Hudson wrote me just a couple of days ago, and he indicated that he's a graduate of Columbia University, and because I told his brother, obviously this brother cannot read, because Mr. Hudson acted like he cannot read. But what we're going to do today, we're going to continue our education for Mr. Bobby Hudson and some of the SGI members, because these folk do not like to read or will not read. Now, Mr. Hudson, for example, writes all the time, and he cannot read. Now, the Gosho, the three trifecta, I think, priest pray for rain, says the Buddha talks about the doctrine of the three proofs. And the three proofs are, number one, if you want to talk about the correct doctrines, you must have what? Documentary proof. That means it must be written down. You must have theoretical proof, and that the theorists must make sound common sense. But the Buddha says that more important than documentary proof and theoretical proof is actually proof of fact. Now, the SGI organization took the three proofs and they twisted it in a way to teach Buddhism, or said this is the actual proof, and then they put another hitch on the thing by saying if you go get a car or you get a job or you do something like this, like Mr. Bobby Hudson, for instance, says, well, the way that you're teaching Buddhism, I want to see the actual proof. He says, until you can show me the actual proof that President Ikeda has, then I won't listen to anything you say. But I told Mr. Hudson, what you're talking and what SGI, President Daisaki Ikeda, teaches, this is not in the sutras. This is not in any of the writings. Now, Mr. Hudson wants to go and he wants to make the word actual proof mean proof of fact. Proof of fact has to be verified. But let's take this thing a little further. Let me set this prayer book here out the way. Now, for those of you who study and read, the first thing I'd like you to do, I would like for you to get your Gosho, and I would like for you to read the Gosho. It's called Conversation Between a Sage and an Unenlightened Man. Read. Now, isn't that kind of coincidental? It says conversation between a sage and an unenlightened man. Well, I may not be a sage, but I'm certain no unenlightened man like Mr. Bobby Hudson, because this brother is an unenlightened man. But it says in that particular Gosho, and I want you to listen very close, it says, therefore, in the 6th volume of the Nirvana Sutra, his teachings delivered in the grove of sal trees, our merciful Father, Shakyamuni Buddha, the Lord of teachings, said, quote, rely on the law and not persons, even when great bodhisattvas such as Universal Worthy and Manjushra men who have returned to the stage of near perfect enlightenment expound the Buddhist teachings. If they do not do so with sutra texts in hand, then one should not heed to them. Wait a minute. No, see, y'all don't want to talk to no brother, because see, I'm not like no Japanese that's telling it, because I tell it like it is. Now, when you read, what does it say? It says, now again, if they do not do so with sutra text in hand, then one should not heed to them. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me. If Daisaki Ikeda, who people consider a Buddha or near-perfect Buddha, or if the high priest of Nichiren Shoshu come to you, or these priests come to you from Japan or wherever they come from, or anybody come teaching some Buddhism to you, if they don't have sutra text in hand, you should not heed to them. Alan Phillips. Now, Alan, you were ready. Now, you tell me some stuff about Nichiren Shoshu, and you mentioned how great the high priest is, but now understand, Shakyamuni in his last and final preaching says, if they do not do so with text in hand, then you should not heed to them. Now, if great bodhisattvas such as Universal Worthy and Manjushra men who have returned to the stage of near perfect enlightenment expound the Buddhist teachings, if they do not do so with sutra text in hand, then one should not heed to them. So, Allah, Shaka, all my brothers out there and all y'all out there who are studying Buddhism, I don't care who it is, if they come to you and they don't have sutra text in hand, then we should not heed to them. These are the final words of the Buddha Shakyamuni. This is what Nichiren writes in the Gosho, conversation between a sage and an unenlightened man. You should follow the sutra. Bobby Hudson, you cannot go out there and follow no Daisaki Ikeda, That's what the sutra says. Now, today I want to just let me take this brother to school. Now, one of the things I want you to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that 50 years ago, we in America passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Now, when you study Buddhism, what does it say? The Lotus Sutra teaches that secular matters are the entirety of Buddhism. You just cannot go to the Gosho. You cannot just go to SGI meeting. You cannot just go to a Nichiren temple and think you're learning Buddhism. Buddhism, the secular matters are the entirety of Buddhism. Now, we learned 50 years ago, one of the greatest secular things happened, that Dr. Martin Luther King helped to get past the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That's a secular matter, but that too is Buddhism. Now, what does that secular matter mean? It means that now, on July 4th, 1776, America became a nation. However, when America became a nation, the Constitution was not written for all of its citizens. It was not until December the 18th, 1865, that the Emancipation Proclamation was passed. And this is the time that we who of African descent, our ancestors, became legal citizens in America. Otherwise, you were only 3/5 of a human. Now, on July 2nd, 1964, Dr. Martin Luther King and those brave soldiers before him got the Civil Rights Act of 1964 passed. That means from December the 18th to July the 2nd, 1964, that's just about 100 years. It was only 100 years after the slaves got freed that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 made us full citizens, where laws come to protect us, where there is true equality in America. That is Buddhism. Buddhism is not practicing some temple. Buddhism is not listening to some Dasoki Kato or some high priest. If you cannot relate to everyday affairs, then you are not practicing Buddhism. For example, let me, ladies and gentlemen, give you some clear-cut examples. I gave a lecture to Mr. Bobby Hudson. And I told Mr. Bobby Hudson, I said, listen, Mr. Hudson, what the SGI is teaching, this idea or this concept of actual proof is only exclusive to the SGI. This is nowhere in the Gosho. It's not taught in the Gosho. It is not taught in the sutras. Shakyamuni Buddha never said nothing about no actual proof. Nichiren Shonin rather, only used the word actual proof once. And this when this guy died. And he was talking about the doctrines of Buddhism. He was not talking about some great benefit. He was talking about debating. But ladies and gentlemen, as an African American, and as a person who reads, as a person who studies, and Mr. Bobby Hudson, I'm not college educated like you. College educated means that you supposed to know how to read, but if you're not educated to your history and to your culture, then actually you are an unenlightened, uneducated man. What they have done is they have uneducated you as opposed to educating you, because that is what the SGI has done to you, brother. Now, let me take you to a brother. Now understand this here. If it was not for Dr. Martin Luther King, America would not be living to the workings of the Constitution of the United States, even though on July the 4th, 1776, 238 years ago, our fathers of America founded the Constitution. We did not live by the Constitution. It was only when the African Americans stood up and who were slaves and who was mistreated stood up and said, we're going to fight against this and we're going to make America live up to her creeds. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you got here. You got the electrifying Anthony Elmore and some other black folk who going to stand up for the Buddhist teachings, and we're going to make you stand up to the teachings of Buddhism just as Martin Luther King made America stand up to the Constitution. We're going to make you stand up to the teachings of the Buddha Shakyamuni. Now, let's get down into the text, Mr. Hudson, because you don't want to read the text, but brother, I do. Now, let's go into the Gosho, what the messenger of the Buddha Shakyamuni said. The messenger of the Buddha, he wasn't the true Buddha, he was the messenger of the Buddha, and his name was Nichiren Shonin. Now, the messenger of the Buddha, Nichiren Shonin, says, now, I want y'all to get the Gosho. Now, in the Gosho, he didn't say nothing about actual proof. Now, let me give you some proof of facts, Mr. Hudson. 148 times in the Gosho, Nichiren Shonin mentions the word fortune, or good fortune. That is what the Buddha taught. That is what Nichiren Shonin teaches. They don't teach the concept of actual proof the way the SGI do it. Now, there's a Gosho, Mr. Hudson, and those of you who are listening. The Gosho is called Good Fortune in This Life. Again, it's called Good Fortune in This Life. And it says, now I'm quoting the Lotus Sutra, it says, the 8th volume of the Lotus Sutra says, quote, their wishes will not be in vain. In this present existence, they will gain the reward of good fortune. Now, Mr. Hudson, it says they will gain the reward of good fortune. It didn't say they're going to get no actual proof. The actual proof is some Dakota stuff. It didn't say no actual proof. It said they get the reward of good fortune. Again, the Buddha mentioned good fortune or fortune 140 times in the Gosho. Now, this is one that I know so well. And I got my partner Kenny back there on the camera. And Kenny, this is one I know so well. It's called the strategy of the Lotus Sutra. Mm-hmm. Now, when we get into the strategy of the Lotus Sutra, now, this is what Nichiren Shonin says, who is the messenger of the Buddha. And he said this to his disciple, Shingo Kingo. He said, quote, when one, listen, comes to the end of one's good fortune, no strategy whatsoever avails. When one's karmic rewards are exhausted, even one's retainers no longer follow one. You survive because you still have both good fortune and rewards. Now, he didn't say you survive because of actual proof. He said you survive because you have good fortune and rewards, Mr. Bobby Hudson. Now, he's used the word fortune 148 times. Now, let's go and speaking of time, there's a Gosho called the selection of time. Now, let's see how he used good fortune. Now, he says, quote, are you listening, Mr. Hudson? I'm listening. It says what? It says, Kenny, you listening, Kenny? You listening right there, Kenny?
Yeah.
It says, the 8th volume of the Lotus Sutra says, quote, in latter ages, if there are those who accept, uphold, read, and recite this sutra, their wishes will not be in vain. In this present existence, they will gain the reward of good fortune. Now, Kenny, did you hear me, Kenny? Because Brother Hudson can't hear me. Kenny, he said they'll gain the reward of what?
Good fortune.
Thank you. Now, let's go to another passage from the Gosho. It says, now this Gosho is called the bodies and minds of ordinary beings. Are you an ordinary being, Kenny?
Yes.
You ordinary, I think I'm an ordinary being, but I don't think Daisaku Ikeda is an ordinary being. But we ordinary beings, it says this. In addition, we today, in a time of trouble, when there is little that ordinary people can do, does it sound like us? And yet, being as you are, in your sincerity, you have sent me thick stem bamboo shoots of the Moso variety as offerings to the Lotus Sutra here in the mountains. Surely you are sowing good seeds in a field of fortune. My tears never cease to flow when you think of it. Kenny, they're sowing seeds in the field of what?
Fortune.
Is it the seeds of actual proof? I thought seeds of actual proof.
No.
Seeds of what?
Fortune.
Let's go to another one, Kenny. This is one maybe Mr. Hustle maybe know. Now, this one here is called the unity of husband and wife. Now, this Shingo Kinjo's wife wrote the Message to Buddha Nichiren Shonin, and she was saying that, you know, when you were at that 33 years old, they said it was bad luck.
Right.
And Nichiren responded in the Gosho, and he said this, quote, "The bad luck of your 33rd year will turn into happiness of your 33rd year." That is what is meant by the passage, quote, "The 7 disasters will instantly vanish, and the 7 blessings will instantly appear. You will grow younger, and your good fortune will accumulate." Kenny, what would accumulate?
Good fortune.
But Mr. Hudson said what's going to accumulate is actual proof. No. This is what the Message to Buddha Nichiren Shonin says. But let's go to another one. Now, this Gosho is called On Consecrating an Image of Shakyamuni Buddha made by Shinjo Kinjo. You know, Shinjo Kinjo had made this image of the Buddha Shakyamuni, and he was consecrated, you know, gave prayers to try to make this image. And Nichiren gave him some advice. He says, with regard to the 3 bodies of a Buddha, the Universal World Sutra states, quote, "A Buddha's 3 types of bodies are born from the correct and equal sutra, which is the great seal of the law that assures entry into the sea of nirvana. It is from this seed that a Buddha 3 types of pure bodies are born. The 3 types of bodies are fields of what? Good fortune for human and heavenly beings, and the highest among those worthy of alms." See, the 3 types of bodies are fields of what? Good fortune. He said about no actual proof. How y'all going to take actual proof and good, you know, that's not the same. But let's go to another one. It says, now this Gosho is called On the 4 Stages of Faith and the 5 Stages of Practice. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
I said on the 4 stages of what? Faith.
Mm-hmm.
And the 5 stages of what? Practice. Now, Milo writes, those who vex or trouble the practitioners of the Lotus Sutra will have their heads split into 7 pieces. But those who give alms to them will enjoy good fortune, surpassing the 10 honorable titles. The Buddha said they're going to get what? They're going to enjoy what? Good what?
Fortune.
They didn't say about actual proof. Mm-hmm. That's SGI Actual Proof. Now, let's take one more, and I can't read the whole thing, can it? Mm-mm. In fact, Kenny, I just think I need to cut this because the messenger of the Buddha, Nichiren Shonin, used good fortune 148 times. He used the word fortune. But let me tell you something. Mr. Bobby Hudson, 25 years ago, the guy or the master or the mentor who Mr. Bobby Hudson and SGI members follow, this is Daisaku Ikeda. Now, they follow Daisaku Ikeda, and some of the folk follow the high priest. But most of this is meant for Daisaki Keita. Now, this is what the Buddha says. Now, I want you, Mr. Bobby Hudson, to read the Gosho. It's called The Roots of Good, what, Kenny?
Fortune.
It's called The Roots of what?
Good fortune.
I thought it was called The Roots of Actual Proof.
No,
The Buddha teaches what? Good fortune. The Lotus Sutra teaches good fortune going to come. Now, it may calculate the actual proof, but the way to teach it is to teach about good fortune. But now, listen to this, Kenny. He says, suppose one dries dung. Y'all know what dung is, don't you? It's boo-boo. Suppose one dries dung, breaks it up, passes it through a sieve, and forms it to resemble a block of sandalwood. Even if one were to carve this into the image of a woman, a heavenly goddess, or a Buddha, when it is burned, it will still give off no fragrance but the stink of dung. Similarly, if one kills or robs others or take from them the first fruits of harvest, then even if one should offer one's gains with the intent of acquiring merit and good fortune, that offering will instead become an evil deed. Now, can you listen to this? If Daisaki Keita is teaching for brainwashing, not to read the Lotus Sutra and do the things that he did, that's an evil deed. No matter how rich he is, no matter how many billions of dollars he put into America, it says what? When it is burned, it will still give off no other fragrance but the stink of dung. If you take some dung, I don't care how you shape it, Kenny. Dung is dung. But let me bring this lecture to a close. And I'm pointing this out to Mr. Bobby Hudson and some of the SGI members, because we're going to close this. Now, I want y'all to also read The Roots of Good Fortune. It says, again, even if one does no harm to others and honestly strives to make offerings, like Mr. Hudson is doing, there will be cases in which one does not attain Buddhahood. To illustrate, if one plants good seed in a bad field, the seed itself will be ruined, and one will in turn suffer loss. Even if one is sincere, like Mr. Hudson and some of the SGI members, if the person whom one makes offerings is evil, those offerings will fail to reduce benefit. Rather, they will cause one to fall into evil paths. Now, if Daisaki Keita is practicing evil or brainwashing, or if he's doing all these kind of things, then you best get your butt away from him. Because this man is doing you no good, ladies and gentlemen. He is doing you no good. Now, Mr. Hudson said, I'm trying to spend all my time trying to bring him down. Now, I want y'all to understand something. President Obama is the most powerful man on planet Earth. He gives interviews. The Pope is one of the most powerful leaders on planet Earth. He gives interviews. And most of the legitimate people in the world, if you're legitimate, you give interviews. The only somebody who's supposed to be a great leader who don't give interviews is Daisaki Keita. And the only powerful person I know who don't give interviews is the mob boss. Now you go to the mob and you say, let me interview you. That mob will say, you better keep that camera out of my face. Let's bring this lecture to a close. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been a Buddhist for 40 years. And in my 40 years as a Buddhist practice, I have learned a lot and have seen a lot. I've seen Daisaki Keita do some rotten things. Nichiren Shoshu priesthood did a rotten thing to me. And the Nichiren Shu organization told me, don't come back anymore, only because I asked them about their policy toward African Americans. But ladies and gentlemen, there's one thing, the most fascinating and the most exciting thing that I've gotten out of this Buddhist practice. And that is the wonder of the Lotus Sutra. It is no Dako Hansan, as Nichiren Shoshu teach, that can help change you. It is no Dasoki Kato. It is no high priest. But the one thing that I've gained through the prayers and through the study is that you can teach people about the Lotus Sutra, because it is the Lotus Sutra that gives you the good fortune. It is the Lotus Sutra that can change you. It is the word in the life of the Buddha Shakyamuni. He left his highest teachings in the Lotus Sutra. And what Anthony Elmore teaches, he only teaches the Lotus Sutra. And so I like Acts interview, black or white. We don't discriminate. We're fair people. We believe in the Lotus Sutra. And just like Dr. Martin Luther King made America live up to his creed, let's make the Buddhists, the Japanese, like Hidasaki Keita, the high priest, who try to make themselves big and bad and like they know everything. They don't know anything. It is only the Lotus Sutra who is our teacher, and we only teach. Some acting black and white, male and female, whoever you are. Everybody, let us come together and teach this great Lotus Sutra. Thank you very much. I get down on my knees and I pray every day. I pray the Lotus Sutra way. I pray every day to do my best to practice peace and love and respect. I get down on my knees and I pray every day. I pray the Lotus Sutra way. Devotion to the mystic law and cause and effect teaching, I believe, and wisdom preaching. I get down on my knees and I pray every day. I pray the Lotus Sutra way. The Lotus Sutra makes a lot of sense. It's about self-development and enlightenment.